Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SGTV. So today we're going to be talking about smart tech. Now, this is something we haven't spoke about really on SGTV yet. So today we are joined by Ben Curry from Electrical Innovations in Derby. Ben, thank you for coming on the show today. How are you doing?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks very much for having me on. Looking forward to it really. Yeah, let's get into things.
Yeah. So before we get into the nitty gritty of smart tech, just tell us about yourself, a bit about your background of how you became an electrician.
Yeah, no problem. So I went into electrics straight from school really. Maybe a few years ago. 20 now, 20, more than 20 years ago. Straight into an apprenticeship when I was 16, and it was the JTL back then. It just started, and I was one of the first JTL apprentices. And it's just gone from there, really. We had a really lucky apprenticeship. I say lucky because I know a lot of guys, they get onto an apprenticeship and there's all sorts of different works in the electrical industry. So the chance that you're going to have a go at doing all of it is really unusual. Some people would they go through a whole apprenticeship and never seeing an SWA, or not even knowing how to connect a two-way light switch because they're at different ends of the spectrum. So we did everything. So we did a lot of domestics. We had some really nice commercial contracts and a bit of industrial too. So I got a really good load of experience in that. And then over the years from there, I've done a bit of all sorts really. I went subcontracting for a long time on new builds. I worked in the solar industry for 4 or 5 years. And then more recently, I run my own business as a local domestic electrician in Derby. And over the last year, we've grown to a team of 8, so it's been pretty well.
Yeah. So at the start, then, when you said you had quite a good experience of being able to experience different aspects of the industry, did anything in particular sort of, draw you in?
So I've always liked domestic work, but not so much the contract stuff. So early days, we did a lot of social housing contracts. And then later on, we did more contracts where we'd just be getting sent somewhere by an employer to do an installation and move on. And that sort of side of it never really appealed to me. Even when we was doing solar and it was nice work, it was on the roof and, interesting technology, it was still, you turn up, you do an install, you leave. Whereas when it came to me running my own company, I was far more interested in the interactions with the customers. Some of our customers who we've been looking after for years now, we're now friends. And that's the side of domestic electrical works that I really enjoy, that relationship building, speaking to customers, visiting the same houses again and again over the years to do extra work, and being almost like used to have the old school family doctor. It's almost like the family electrician. And that's the kind of thing that I really love about domestic electrics. I don't like industrial, it's too dirty. It's true what they say about electricians. We can be princesses at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like going to work and coming home absolutely ditched every day. I don't mind it now and again, but factory work and things like that, not for me. Commercial, I just find there's too much standing around, and I don't like it. There'd be many a time when I was on commercial jobs, we'd just drive somewhere and sit there all day, waiting for us to do an hour work and then drive home for hours. And it was never my thing. Some people love that, and I know they do. Some companies, make a lot of money doing that, and it's really good for them. But we like to stay local. We like to everyone in the local area know who we are and recommend us when we do well. And that's our thing. That's what we like the most.
That's the beauty of running your own business, isn't it? You get to choose what work you do.
Yeah, of course.
So let's get into where you started with smart tech then. So how did you get into it?
So it was mainly a hobby. So when I first started, I kind of get by in smart technology. It was because I was interested in it, and not so much as interested in fitting it for customers, more that I liked it, wanted it at home. So
Toys and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So just started, keeping an eye on what's out there, having a look at what's going on, and then started fitting some, and then it kind of goes from there. Customer asks a question, you can give them an answer, they ask you to come and do the work, and the more you do, the more you get, and it kind of goes on and on, and now we've got to the point with 2021, and there's that much of it out there. spoiled for choice, really. It's really good.
How much of a development have you seen from it, though, from when you started getting involved to what you're doing now?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because back in the day, you'd like have to, move mountains to get something to work in a particular way, like a doorbell to actually ring your phone or whatever. And nowadays, it just all works. Your Wi-Fi is better. You can have video calls over floodlights that are screwed to the side of your house. It's pretty crazy. So there's some really interesting things. Light bulbs that change colour, all of that. It was just years ago, it was too expensive, or the technology was too big to fit in the devices. Even things like some of the ranges that are out there currently, just from generation 1 to the current generation of them, how things have changed is amazing. Just the size of the product and how they've managed to squeeze smaller things into the same space. Integrated LEDs are a good example of that. And then now you get Wi-Fi enabled integrated LED light fittings, and so there has been quite a development over the last few years.
Do you do much of it for your general day-to-day work, or is it 50-50, 20-80? What kind of ratio would you do?
Yeah, so it depends what you consider smart tech. So we're electricians, and we will come to your house and do your electrics for you, basically. That also includes things like CCTV, things like alarms. Now, you could say an alarm is smart tech because it's got an app. You could say CCTV is smart tech because, again, you can get it on your phone. But then it's not proper smart tech, it's more just CCTV. And then things like your video doorbells and your Wi-Fi enabled cameras, I guess that's what people think of as smart tech now. But I'd say, if covering it all, we do something at least every week. We'll be doing at least one smart tech install of some sort. Like tomorrow, we're doing a full CCTV install. We've already done a couple of doorbells this week. So there's always something going on. And it's quite popular at the moment.
Is this the same for sort of home automation, for voice activated kind of thing, smart sockets?
Yeah, so that sort of thing as well. I mean, the things like, the voice assistants, we don't tend to fit a lot of them because customers can tend to just buy them and plug them in themselves. What we do is kind of advise that if they've already got something like that, then we could fit this to complement it, so pushing them down the route of, if they've got one particular brand, we can say, well, that's compatible with this selection over here. Full home automation, we don't do. We're not smart home installers, but we're more of it's the DIY jobs that are, the manufacturers make it and aim it at DIY installations, but people just still don't want the hassle of doing it, or they don't think they're capable of doing it. So even like a battery powered doorbell, which is battery only, we'll still install them for people because they want the services, us telling them what's the best part for the job, us coming in and installing it, and also setting it up and showing them how to use it. And they just don't want the hassle. So we're happy to do that, and we enjoy doing that.
Yeah, you sort of answered my next question, really. I was going to say, a lot of manufacturers now are creating products that are aimed at the end user rather than a contractor. So they're really advertised for DIYers, people installing it themselves. But do you think that has taken away a chunk of work from contractors like yourselves, or it's still fairly distributed?
So I don't know what it's like for other people out there. I'm in all the Facebook groups and on the social media and things like that. And you do see a lot of people complain, saying they can't find a decent electrician. You also see electricians complaining, saying they don't want to go out and do the little bits and pieces. But we love that sort of work. We've built our business on doing that. I'd like nothing more than just to go to 3 or 4 jobs a day for an hour at each job. And that more than covers the day's work. We've had 4 new customers who are really happy. And these DIY aimed products are ideal for that for us, because we can go out and where we might say, we'll put a light up and we'll charge you £100, people might think that's expensive just to exchange a replacement light fitting light for light, but they'll happily pay for us to come out for the same amount of time to fit a smart product for them, because they must think in their head that's a different job, they should be paying more for it. But from our point of view, it's the same amount of work, but people are willing to pay more for that extra knowledge and service of installing those so-called DIY products. So we really love that. A lot of electricians don't know. They don't want to get involved. They don't want messing about with it. But, you know, more for us to fit, I guess.
Why do you think that is, though?
I don't know. A lot of people don't move with the times, I guess. I say that wrong. That's wrong. It's not just about moving with the times. A lot of people just aren't interested. They're happy to go and do what they're good at and stick to doing what they're good at. You know, they're probably really good at, you know, they might have a kitchen contract, following kitchen fitters around. They might be really good at rewires or just really good at fault finding small works. So why start complicating things, having to add in extra products they don't know about? You know, and then they might go to one and have issues. Like I know I did. First alarm I fitted was at my mum's house. I used to hate fitting them. My mum was going on holiday and wanted an alarm, so I went and did one for her. What a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare we had. And after that, we went on a training course, did some more installs, did one at my own house. And then from there, it's like, well, we get this now. We've got training, we've got a rep, we've got, you know, we know what we're doing. And then you gradually build it up. So it's not just a case of just dropping on and doing it, because they can be complicated. But they are DIY products. So, you know, they should be easy enough for you to be able to just get it right. And yeah, so I think that might be it. It might be a case of, you know, not wanting to change. Why change a winning formula if these other spots are really well?
If whatever work you're doing is your bread and butter work and it's consistent and it pays well and you're happy doing it, then maybe people would be, you know, they wouldn't want to upset the apple cart and mess with what they've already got going. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And if that's their work ethic, then so be it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be difficult to sell it as well. Like, if a customer asks you a direct question and you don't know the answer, you've got two choices, haven't you? You blag it and possibly sound stupid, or you just tell them you don't know and then they go elsewhere anyway. So if you're not fitting them, then you're not learning about them. And if you're not learning about them, you're not fitting them. So it's kind of like, once you're into it, it's easy to spread, you know, if I'm fitting one brand, it's not much of a stretch to switch to another and add more options. Whereas if I'm not fitting any of them, it can be like an entirely different thing that it's just not worth the hassle of picking up.
Yeah. So are you getting people asking for smart tech whilst you're already on a job?
Yes and no. So we a lot of our work comes from Facebook. So we constantly advertise that we fit all of this. So we get a lot of inquiries about just people asking, you know, can you fit a thermostat for us? Can you fit a doorbell for us or whatever? But also when I go to a job and someone's just asking about basic electrics, I'll always throw it out there as an option. I'll be like, have you thought about X, Y, Z? You know, if you want some lights putting in, have you thought about ones that you can, you know, control from your phone or something like that? And then it just goes from there then.
So it's something that you can upsell as well as, you know, customers asking you for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really good for that. Like I say, going back to like what a customer's willing to pay, when you get an electrician out to fit a socket, we might be able to, you know, sell them a Wi-Fi enabled version and put a bit more markup on it. And if you've got them on the van, it's always an option. We do it with USBs as well. I mean, USB smart tech? I'm not sure.
I probably wouldn't.
One of those.
No, I probably wouldn't call it a smart tech.
Yeah, so we do that with USBs. I'll go and price a rewire, and they'll be saying, you know, 3 sockets here, 2 sockets there, and then I'll be like, right, do you want USB outlets anywhere? And like, oh yeah, that'd be a good idea. And then brilliant, how many? And then, so it is nice to, you know, have the option to add that extra in.
Yeah. One thing we hear sometimes is saying a smart installation can be a greener installation. So do you think that's something you'd use to possibly upsell products, of the energy saving aspects and benefits of a smart install?
So it's a funny one, isn't it? Because everyone likes to talk about the green side of things, but then when you're actually there talking to the customer, they're more interested in what just works for the home. So we do cover that. You know, things like your Nest thermostats, they're built around that. It's a big brand of, you know, part of their branding of like, it can save you bills and all of that. Or if someone's wanting solar, you know, it's not just about the energy saving, it's the, you know, help for the planet. So we don't use it in our marketing and to try and help us sell things, but it is part of the conversation for sure.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask is, what do you see the lifespan from a lot of smart tech? The reason I ask is I was speaking to a guy who I think he was out in the States doing smart installs. And this is some years ago, so it was all old, analog, that kind of stuff. But he was doing it for well-known people. I think Jeff Bezos and well-known people with a lot of money. But the kind of smart tech they were having is very outdated now. And obviously, we see technology just moving quicker and quicker. So, what sort of lifespan do you see in the kind of things you're installing?
I have no idea on this. I mean, it's funny when you look at manufacturers, they've got to have a new product out every year. They need something to push. So they're always looking for new technologies to put into things where they can. So you might see a doorbell that a few years ago was really good. It's now, outdated, but trying to get, will a customer want to replace an older product with a new one? I've got no idea on that. It's a funny one. We talk about it with our camera systems when we fit them. We tell people, these are the best cameras on the market at the moment. This is why we fit them. But in 3 years' time, we'll be talking to you about an upgrade. And they seem like, paying all this money, why would I want to upgrade? And it's like, because if you're the sort of person to want the best, then in a few years' time, there's going to be better. It's just how it is. And I think you don't get that with electrics. It's more of a, you put your sockets and your lights in, there's not a lot to change. So it's nice to have the thought that I could be fitting a device for a customer now and speaking to them again in 2 or 3 years or 4 years or more about an upgrade. It's good to know that we can keep that relationship and I can be advising them what's coming out down the line as well.
It could be a more of a mindset for the customer to adapt to, because it's not unusual now for anyone to upgrade their phone every 12, 18 months, or the same for a smart TV every 2 years, or car every 4 years, or whatever they choose to have. And I suppose when you think about electrics, they might think, right, that's it, that's done forever now. But maybe it's a case of customers having to almost adjust their mindset to thinking, no, if we're going to be looking at smart tech, we need to be keeping up as much as we would with phones and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I follow some of the bigger smart home installers on social media, and they offer service plans and things like that. They come and update on the technology every year. And I don't think the DIY products are aimed at that sort of level. They don't want people trying to do firmware updates on a DIY product. So it's a bit different, but at the same time, it's like, you release a new camera and it's very easy to say to existing customers, new camera on the market, do you want to add one to your system? It's a nice option to have as well.
Yeah. Do you think that could get more Sparkies into doing smart tech? If you're trying to sell a product to someone, an install, knowing in your head that you might be back in 2 or 3 years, that might make them more inclined to think, oh, there's work there, so I might actually go down that route.
Yeah, maybe. Everywhere except Derby, hopefully.
Yeah, that's your patch. Everyone stay away from Derby. Do you find a lot of your jobs are call-outs to DIY jobs that have gone wrong, mainly aimed at smart tech, not someone changing the light because Barry down the road told them how to do it or something like that?
So, I don't know. We've had a few Nest thermostat jobs where they've opened the wiring sensor to the boiler and have not been able to put it back together. And we've had a couple of doorbells where they've tried to fit their own doorbell and they've not really got it. But I do think if someone's willing to have a go, they're probably also capable of fitting them. Sometimes I'm driving around the streets and I see some of the installations and they leave a bit to be desired. But generally, we don't get a lot of call-outs to like smart home install gone bad. There's a few, but not a massive amount.
Yeah. Do you find, because a lot of smart tech, you're relying on the Wi-Fi and the internet, do you find that can be an issue for your kind of installs where their router might not be at the right frequency? For some of them, you have to adjust frequencies, or it might be like mine at home, it's in a hallway where you've got double skin brick there, nowhere gets Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so this is one of the things where I think if you've spoke to an electrician who says they don't like doing the smart tech, and they always say the same, it's DIY rubbish and all of that, it's normally because they've not had the conversation up front about Wi-Fi. So if they've spoke to a customer who's interested in a smart product, then customer needs to know that they might run into Wi-Fi issues and there might be additional costs for them to boost that one way or the other by either putting in a better Wi-Fi network or putting in just a simple booster. And there's all sorts of, you can buy something for 10 quid that will plug in and boost your Wi-Fi and do the job, or you can spend thousands on a full Wi-Fi upgrade. So there's everything in between that does the job to get it working. But you just the customer needs to know, and you don't want to get there and start having problems because you've not taken it into account. So at the very least, you need at least something on the van to, get you out of a hole when you need to and just be able to get the job done. And as long as your customer knows that this might be the case, you won't have any problems. But like I say, this is where I have seen issues of someone complaining, I couldn't get the doorbell to connect, I couldn't get the camera to connect. Trying for hours, it wouldn't work. And it's 99 times out of 100, it's Wi-Fi related.
Yeah. What about aftercare for you? So if you've been in and done your install, they're happy with it, it works, no issues with the Wi-Fi. 6 months down the line or 6 weeks down the line, they change internet providers, get a new router, boom, everything stops working. So what would your stance be on that for your customers?
So again, this is something we make sure the customer know about. So we make sure that when we're fitting a Wi-Fi device, they know that it's a Wi-Fi device. It's not just sticking a camera up. So they need to know that, same as we have a lot of CCTV, you see. We fit a CCTV system and 6 months later they change the phone and they can't get it on any of the apps because they've never been taught how to do it and they've never figured it out themselves. They've just installers come along, set them up with it. So we just need to make sure they know what's involved and what's going on with it. So if they want to pay us to come out and sort it, we can do. If they want us to talk them through it over the phone, we'd normally just have a chat and sort it out for them over the phone. So we don't do service plans for that sort of thing. It's probably something we might move to down the line, but currently we don't. But it is something that definitely, again, it needs to be spoke about because it is important. Wi-Fi soon is going to be more important than your main power coming in, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. When you say about service plans, it's something that I often think about when you speak to different Sparkies, how varied an opinion different Sparkies will have on it. Like you say, you seem to be fairly open to doing it in the future. I know some people dead against it. No, don't want anything to do with that. It's once I'm in, once I've done the job, I want to move on to the next. Don't want to be getting called back in because they've changed the router. Whereas some people can see that there's money to be made if you're charging X amount per month or per year, just to be on call almost in case anything goes wrong, then that's money coming into your bank. But like I said, it's how divisive it is with different Sparkies. I can't seem to wrap my head around.
I'd love it. I really would. The first thing is, if someone's paying you to look after their electrics and then they decide they're having an extension, who's going to do the electrics and the extension? The guy who they're paying anyway to look after all the smart devices, they're just going to ring up. We're having an extension done, come and price all the wiring up. We're having a new kitchen in, we need a consumer unit change. They're not going to pay you to look after the smart devices and then get Joe Bloggs on down the street in to quote for the rest of the works, are they? So they're paying you to then be a lifetime customer, basically. That's the way I see it. I'd love to set up a service plan in the electrical industry, but there's not a lot that really wants it. It's not like gas where you're there every year to do the boiler, and EICRs is, every 5 years, it just wouldn't work. So something like this, I think it's moving to the way where we can be that guy. You've got a subscription with us. We go out every year. We make sure all the devices are in order. We make sure we manage the phones so they're always working. We manage the Wi-Fi. So there's something there. I don't think it's there yet, and I think down the line it will be. But I am looking forward to that. Yeah,
I went on a CCTV course a while back, and the guy doing the course was saying, once you've installed it, you're perfectly within your rights to say, right, here's a small contract, nothing dodgy, nothing fancy, bog standard contract. I'm going to charge you £10 a month, for example, to be there in case anything goes wrong, whether it's a 12-month contract. And the way he described it was, there you go, that's money coming in your bank every month for potentially doing nothing, but keeping peace of mind for your customer at the end of the day. So if you want to use it, then go for it.
So we've seen guys locally who are doing that, but doing it the wrong way. And then if a customer wants to stop paying, they're turning the app off, so the customer's not get access to the cameras. And then we get the phone call of like, oh, we had this guy and we stopped paying him, now we can't access the system because he's got remote access and he can shut it down. And we've had a bit of that going on. So you just have to, set it up in the right way and be careful with it, I guess.
Yeah. So how do you find customers react to you as an electrician having access to their accounts? Because I know some systems, depending on the product, you can set the accounts up for them and then you can just pass it over and you don't have any access to that. But some systems don't, where it will be solely down to you. So how do you find customers react to that?
I tell you what, it's a pain because it's that magic word, isn't it? As soon as you say password, people are like, oh no, even when you say, I'll set you up the account, I'll set you up a password, here's how you log into it. All of a sudden, it's a bit like, don't want to know my passwords. A lot of these different systems, the smart home things, they don't have a proper installer handoff. So you can't set it up on your installer account and just hand it over to the customer on their account. You'd have to log in as the customer to set it up, it's a bit rubbish, really. The CCTV system we use have just introduced something which we've not set up on it yet, but it looks like it's going to solve that issue for our cameras. But then you've still got, if you go into someone and set them up a Google Home, you've still got to log in with their Google account, which when you're talking a Google account, it's massive, isn't it? It's your Gmail, it's half of your logins on the internet, it's everything's all linked to that single sign-on, and giving that to an installer you've just met, it's a bit weird. So I'd like to see something better with that, and especially like during COVID, you can't even say, oh, I'll set it up on your phone, because they're just like, don't want to give you my phone. And so it is a bit awkward. I'd love to see a better system where we could log in as an installer and it'd just be a case of we log in as an installer, the customer gets a link to approve us logging in, and then we've got full access, and then the customer can boot us out at the end.
Yeah. That's one thing we do have here.
Do that.
Yeah, that is one thing we do have here. I'll only mention it quickly, but we've got the Click Smart Plus range here at Scolmore. And you can do exactly that. You can set it up for your customer on the app and just pass it over to your customer, and that's it. You don't have
good
signing on that.
It's good. It's a big help from an installer's point of view.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description for a video on that. So if anyone's watching that, they can view that below. The next thing I wanted to ask, slightly different, but we see a lot of insurance companies suggesting smart tech now, depending on the property. So listed buildings, thatched cottages, whether that's thermostats, sensors, things like that are all working in kind of a home automation to keep that building safe. Is that something you've been involved with at all?
What, from an insurance point of view?
Yeah, doing that kind of.
I've never seen that. We fit a fair amount of the Wi-Fi enabled smoke detectors. So if you have a problem, you can sort it out even if you're away from home, or you can just sort it out with your phone rather than having to wait for a tea towel at your smoke detector. So we do fit those. I've never had to get involved with it from an insurance point of view though, so no.
Okay.
I can see how it'd work though.
Yeah. What are the typical questions you get asked from clients about smart tech? Are there some basic ones that constantly come up?
Is it easy to use? Will I be able to figure it out? They're the most, like, people love the idea of having all this clever stuff, hassle of having to mess about with it. It just has to work, and that's the biggest thing. So we have it at home. We've got quite a few different things at home, because if something new comes out, I'll fit it at home to get my head around it and make sure it works. But my wife's not into any of it. So it either has to work seamlessly and never have a problem, or it doesn't have a place in the house. And that's a good watermark of also whether we'd fit it for other people. Because if it's too much hassle to have at home, why should we inflict it on customer, if you know what I mean? So that's the main thing we get asked. And then price, you know, obviously everyone's interested in price. One thing that customers don't ask, which they wouldn't know about, so I don't know why they would ask, but they're always surprised when they do find out, is the cabling. So certain things like Nest thermostat's a good example of this. You've got to have a cable to the thermostat. So customer sees it online, wireless, Wi-Fi, all of this, and they assume it's wireless, it's cable, no cable. But then your Nest thermostat is powered, you've got to get a cable to it. And then things like some of the cameras on the market, they come with a pre-wired cable with a massive plug on like this that you've got to drill a huge hole to get through the wall. And then you can't chop the cable because it's a warranty. So if you chop the plug off the cable to wire it through neatly, it loses its warranty. And a customer wouldn't know that. So sometimes you have a 5-meter cable, but you've got a plug on the inside and a camera on the outside wall, and you've got nowhere to hide that 5-meter cable. So it's probably not the right product because they're fitting one with a long cable. They could have just fitted a different version. But it's something that customers, they're always surprised when you say, well, this is what you've asked for and this is how it is. Why, you know, and they're like, oh, that makes no sense. So that is something we come across quite a lot. The, you know, ridiculously long cables on the ends, pre-wired systems. Yeah. And then just explaining to people when they see a product and they assume it's just going to work in one way, and it doesn't. We come across that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I suppose it's just down to having a good conversation at the start with your client. Like any install you're going to do, you need to be crystal clear about, you know, problems that might occur, such as Wi-Fi, cable, that kind of thing. And I suppose I bet that comes with experience. And it might sound silly, but to someone maybe younger, inexperienced in the industry, that might not be at the top of their mind when they're about to start a job of having a good conversation with their customer. They might think, right, I want to crack on, do a good job, I want to impress, but might not remember to have that initial conversation.
Yeah.
Where do you think you're going to see a lot of smart tech coming into new builds as a standard feature?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think as well, I don't know if the big guys will. You know, when you get these estates with like thousands of houses on them, I don't know how much they'd fit them on them, but I think it's something where bespoke builders can really put some extra kit in and it sets their houses apart. So when you've got a builder that might be building 20 houses compared to, you know, a Barrett's or a Persimmon Homes or something like that, it's building thousands. I think this is where the smaller builders might be able to put some smart tech in. So a customer, well, a homeowner looking to move house into a new build, and they're comparing the two, it can really set them apart. Now with the big sites, I don't know, maybe they will, but I think it's just they're a bit too much like production lines, aren't they? And I think they might, I don't know how it would work there. And also the whole the handoff process of building a home and having no one in it. A lot of these products won't even work until they've got a customer account attached to them. So until they've sorted that out, sometimes you just, I know there's some ranges, obviously all of the proper smart home automation systems have that built in, that there is a way of dealing with that. But even some of the DIY stuff is starting to now, where you could install it in a house with no user account. But some of them don't. Some of them you still have to have that account. They won't even let you pass the login screen to register the device until you've logged in. So they would just you'd not be able to put them in. But there's other systems out there that do, and the more they cater towards that, I think it's a better chance we might see them going into the new builds. Things like, I follow a lot of this on YouTube, and there's some guys out there who are doing like new build Siri, well, it's Apple, I guess, new build Apple HomeKit homes. So the new build home has got Apple HomeKit in every room, everything, there's all different devices, but it's all based around having an iPad in the house, and it's all running from that. And it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely moving forward. Talking of moving forward though, where do you see the future of smart tech? How do you see it developing from here? Obviously, we've seen a massive development from where it was to where it is now. And
yeah, it is. It's interesting, isn't it? Because like when I was an apprentice, I had I remember I bought a Motorola phone, and it was like as big as this, and it had an aerial. And then now, I've got a phone as big as that still, but a new iPhone, and that's 20 years. So it is going to be amazing the difference. Just the price of things are going to come down. Like, will you need light switches? Down the line, how many light switches does Scolmore sell a year? Will you need light switches, or will there be built-in sensors to the light fittings? And what does that mean for electricians if you're not having to cable a light switch? If they're all wireless devices, your switch on the wall can go on after decoration. You can just walk around and stick it on because it's a wireless. I've seen these switches now are kinetic, so the push of the switch triggers the action on the home. So you don't even need cabled switches. Just the action of it being pressed is enough energy to trigger the signal to tell it to switch on and off. So it's interesting to see how that smart technology might move over into basic technology. And I'd love to see consumer units with some kind of monitoring in them. That's a big one. I think when that comes out, it'll be really interesting for electricians. Almost an internet-enabled consumer unit, so it can tell you what's being used, when it's being used, how it's being used.
Which tells the electricity.
Oh yeah, and it would be. You could have a report coming every week saying, this week your lights have been on for this long. And you wouldn't need smart devices all around the house. It'd be a consumer unit that was smart, but that wouldn't be a DIY. There's a lot of crossover there, and things like the DIY of cameras, locks, detectors, sensors, all of that. I think you might see them being more built in together as well. So like where now you might have just a smart light switch, eventually your smart light switch will also be a temperature sensor, which will talk to your heating. It might have a camera in it as well. And I don't know. Who knows?
Sounds like you need to get involved with designing some of these products, Ben.
Oh, I do think as well, as long as you can sell a camera and a switch and a sensor and a smoke detector, there's kind of no need to sell a single one. So maybe it might be longer than we might imagine before you get a built-in all-in-one.
So if anyone's watching this and you notice that we start selling all these products that Ben's mentioning and Ben disappears just randomly, it's nothing to do with us.
I'll be on a beach somewhere with
that. How could you protect your customers from being hacked with smart tech?
Okay, so like I'm not an IT engineer, so we don't go into that too far. So when you've got a router, they've got a firewall in it. Okay, so that's point number one. Everyone's going to have that. There's ways to upgrade that. Now we can have a conversation with the customer if they're worried about it of upgrading that. But the most basic way is passwords, like decent password management, making sure they're protecting the devices, so they're not using the same password on all the different devices.
And the password isn't password or 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, exactly. And just being, clever with that sort of thing. So the issue is people like simple. So when we come out and we set them up with a basic password and tell them to change it, we come back a year later and then come for a service and they give us the same basic password back. We're like, we told you to change this. Oh yeah, we'll get around to it. So it is just, you do need to keep the customers informed and keep the habits, but the cleverer all this stuff gets, the cleverer the hackers will get, but it is usually the simple stuff. It's having a decent firewall on your router, it's having a decent password and using them, and not just using the same one every time. All these password managers out there, if you're all in on Apple, you've got one built in. Otherwise, you can get things like LastPass and password manager systems and things like that. So that's the easiest way. So yeah, we talk to customers about that, but it's basic internet safety that is, rather than smart tech safety, I think.
Yeah.
But then having a system, like you said, you're introducing with your range of having an engineer that is separate entirely from their account, that's a step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. It's been really good to have you
Okay.
on. I've learned something, so I hope people out there have learned something, have found something useful. And if anyone wants to see more from us here at SGTV, please make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button below. Ben, before we go, where can our audience find you if they're in the local area of Derby and need your services?
Yeah, so we're based in Chellaston at Derby. We cover all the Derby area and surrounding. Our website is elec-in.co.uk, and we're on all the social media platforms with it's Elec In, so ELECINN. So hopefully, if you've got any messages about smart homes, just give us a shout and we can have a chat.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Ben. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.